Fooly Cooly, FLCL, Furikuri, whatever you want to call it, it is the topic of today's episode. Particularly the original anime OVA, the 6-episode series that I think came out in Japan in like 2000, and I believe it played over here in the States on Toonami in 2003. That was the first time I saw this thing, and it made a huge impression on me. And I just decided to rewatch it almost 20 years later, and you know, I wanted to see, would it hold up, and would it still give me those same feelings today as an old man, as it did back then when I was a kid? Well, yes, and yes. In fact, I think I enjoyed it more this time, for some funny and stupid reasons that I'll tell you in a little bit. So what is Fooly Cooly about, in case you haven't seen it? It is an anime unlike anything else you've ever seen, that is for sure. Now, the story itself is pretty crazy. It's about this kid Naota who pretty much he lives in this town. He's kind of just ambivalent about life. He says, you know, nothing exciting happens here. He feels really kind of depressed about this place he lives in and his life. He kind of lives in the shadow of his older brother, who's this baseball player who left for America to go play sports, and he's kind of struggling. He's 12 years old. He's going through puberty and just an awkward phase of life and just kind of down and depressed. He's kind of desperate to grow up and act adult, but he's struggling with that, you know, this in-between place of not really being a kid, but not really being a grown-up either. Seems like he doesn't really appreciate the people in his life that much. His brother's older girlfriend kind of clings to him since his brother's away, and it's a little weird, but things get so much weirder. And so this alien chick out of nowhere comes along on her Vespa, and she runs him over, and then things get crazier and crazier from there. This alien chick, she's like this kind of like sexy, crazy punk rock alien girl, and she pretty much just comes into his life. She ends up moving into their house, and weird things start happening. He gets a bump on his forehead. He thinks it's from her hitting him, but it grows into this horn, and pretty soon he's got giant robots coming out of his head, and the first robot that comes out turns out to, well, it becomes a friendly robot, which also moves in with him and kind of helps take care of him and take care of things around the house. And it's a very cool character, this robot. Despite all this, despite this alien and all these robots coming out of his head, he's still just like, nothing interesting ever happens here. It's mind-blowing. There's also this giant iron-shaped factory on the edge of town that blows out smoke every day, and everything's so weird, but nothing phases this kid. At first, I'm not gonna give away too much, but it is insane, man. It is a crazy story. There's so much packed into these 6 episodes that it can be hard to digest, but it is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the animation, this is from Gainax, the people who did Evangelion, Gurren Lagann, so many other animes. They're a huge studio, and you can really see those influences here. Some of the same people who worked on Evangelion worked on this too, but it's like they really just ran with this and did things that you've never seen before. It's like they let their creativity just fly, and they do so many different styles of animation. It keeps jumping back and forth between different styles. It'll go from regular looking anime to manga panels that are somewhat animated, to 3D stuff, to there's even like a South Park scene where they use this South Park style animation. So many exaggerated cartoony effects thrown in there. You got like eyeballs popping out of their sockets and chibi faces and just all this stuff, and it's like it's so fast paced and there's so much going on. It's brilliant. You've never seen anything else like it. We probably will never see anything else like it again. So much cool stuff with the animation here. Again, it's like, it's just eye candy all the way through. Not only is the animation fantastic, but the soundtrack is phenomenal too. This here is the first soundtrack. And this is probably the only soundtrack I own out of anything. There's actually 3 soundtracks for this 6-episode series. I didn't know there was that much music in it. But I wish I would have gotten volumes 2 and 3. They're getting kind of expensive now, but I listened to this so many times back in the day. So many times. I love it. Love all these songs. And some of them are like partly in English, so they're very easy to sing along to, and just such good stuff. It's most of the music is by Japanese alternative rock band The Pillows, and it's just awesome. Just awesome. The way they integrate the music into the anime too, it's like, it just sets that mood so perfectly, and it's very full of angst and just that kind of, yeah, that adolescent angst, that energy, that moodiness, that kind of depressed, energetic, rebellious kind of, but hopeful message at the same time. It's great stuff. This is just all over the place, just fast paced. There's so much humor. I was cracking up, and then there's also some really hard hitting parts too. We see just some of the struggles the characters are going through and some of their sad backstories. You know, besides all the stuff that Naota's going through, Mamimi, his brother's girlfriend, is pretty much homeless and poor and eating bread scraps left over, and people are making fun of her, and she smokes cigarettes, and she's just in a bad place of herself too, just trying to cope with life. And however she got in this situation and what's she gonna do next. We see one of his other colleagues too at school. Her parents are going through a divorce, and she's going through hard times, and everybody just has their own struggles. And we get these really kind of vivid glimpses into this and into the crap that everybody's going through. But at the same time, there's just so much action and so much comedy, and this has everything. You like action, comedy, drama. It'll hit you right in the feels, and it'll keep you so entertained all the way through. Now, why did I enjoy this more now than back then when I was Naota's age and could really kind of relate to what he was going through in some ways? I mean, I never had robots coming out of my head, but you know, it's funny and it's stupid, but back then I was a kid watching this on Adult Swim, and it seemed very kind of, I don't want to say edgy, a little ecchi, also a little bit, some very suggestive scenes. There's a lot of innuendo and a lot of kind of uncomfortable scenes to watch with your parents. So this was one that I always felt really uncomfortable about. I wanted to watch it so badly, but like the TV was in the shared family room. There were always people around, always my parents were around, and I had to kind of be sneaky about it if I was going to try and watch it. So that's why I didn't get to enjoy it to the fullest back then. But even so, and even seeing it sporadically here and there, it just made such a huge impact on me. And like I say, I listened to that soundtrack countless times. I had a poster at one point. I can't find it. Maybe I'll put it in another video, but just a really, really unique anime that meant a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me today. And being as short as it is, at 6 episodes, it's one I can easily revisit time and time again, and you can watch it in a couple of hours. For me, this anime is really, and has always been, just a story about growing up. And I remember looking at message boards back in the day and reading paragraphs and pretty much essays people had written about trying to break down all the imagery and metaphors in this thing, and some of them are kind of obvious, some of them were a little bit more abstract, but you know, without going too deep, yeah, there's a lot of complex elements in here, a lot of very interesting stuff. But again, for me, what it means to me, it's just a story of growing up, complete with aliens and robots and all kinds of interesting stuff. Lovable characters, relatable characters, struggles of life, and some really cool action, amazing animation and music, and hilarious moments as well. So the original FLCL, it is a masterpiece, and I haven't honestly watched much of the sequels, the newer series that came out. I tried watching Progressive, and I don't think I made it past like the first episode. I might have watched 1 or 2. I just wasn't feeling it, so maybe I need to go back on there. But yeah, they made 2 seasons so far that take place years later. Still features Haruko, the alien. Naota would have been grown up by this point, and I think he's out of the picture. She's here with some other kids in a different scenario. It just seemed really dark and kind of unsettling, and just, it didn't have that same feel or that same magic as the original series. Yeah, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But I should probably give it at least a 3-episode treatment, or try and watch through it some more. Let me know in the comments if you have seen Progressive or Alternative. Are those really worth watching? Why or why not? I'd love to hear your take on those. And then of course, they've announced a new 2 more seasons, I believe. The next one being Fooly Cooly Grunge, coming out next year. We only got a few seconds, I think it was like a 10-second trailer, and all it shows is Haruko coming with her guitar, like smashing at the camera. The pillows are returning for the soundtrack once again. has a 3D CGI look to it, and if you saw my Trigun video, you know how I feel about that, but who knows, because the original Fooly Cooly, it used CGI, it used dozens of different animation styles, and they kept on changing back and forth. Do I think that's going to be the case here? No, not really, but who knows, so I don't know, I mean, we'll see, hopefully it's good. But yeah, that's coming out. I guess I'll have to watch Progressive and Alternative before that happens, so yeah, I just don't think anything can touch this original masterpiece that was Fooly Cooly in the early 2000s, and it still holds up very well today. It's still so enjoyable. It's a classic. It's a must watch for anybody. Highly recommend it. But that's all I got to say, I think. Let me know your thoughts on Fooly Cooly. Have you watched it? Have you seen the sequels? Are you looking forward to the next wave of series? Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.